accidentally stayed up until 4 a.m. chatting with my friend, but we're still gonna sit down. We're gonna talk about Avatar. Hey guys, so we are on episode 6 called Imprisoned of Book 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this is a pretty fun one to get into. I think it's one of the first ones that's more non-Aang centric. I think so far it's mostly focused on Aang's character and how he reacts to different situations, but this is more Katara focused. I really like Katara. I think in a lot of ways I identify with her because she's very bold and brash and outspoken, but also kind and trusts people and trusts in human nature, but to a point where it's naive and it can end up backfiring on her. And I think this episode is a perfect capsule of Katara's character. Kind of like how last episode, when Aang was fighting with Bumi, his fighting style kind of encapsulated the issues he would have dealing with the Fire Lord in the future. This kind of shows Katara's major weakness, but also her major strength. A little quick recap for you guys. They land near a little earth village, which I just find so charming. It just feels like such a natural progression that they don't just jump to a big city right away. It's like small Kyoshi Island. Omashu is like a mid-sized city, but then it's just back to these like small, tiny, independent little towns, and how they each have their own little culture and their own issues, which is what they find with this town, where these Fire Nation soldiers made it illegal to be an earthbender, and if you earthbend in the town, you will be imprisoned, taken on to basically a concentration camp warship. And they run into this young guy who turns out to be an earthbender, but he and his mother know that he can never use it because his father got taken. But he used his earthbending to save this old man, and the old man turned him into the Fire Nation soldiers. Haru got taken, and then Katara, out of guilt because she was the one who kind of pushed him to use his earthbending, tricks the soldiers into thinking she is also an earthbender, goes on the ship, and then tries to get everyone out. It's one of those episodes that feels like a story you could easily turn into like a movie or a mini-series, and they just condense it into 20 minutes. So in some ways it feels a little unnaturally quick, but all the emotional beats are hit pretty well, so I just gotta look past that. I like Haru. He's a cutie pie. I always liked whoever does his voice acting. I think he has a very calm but innocent voice, and that kind of feels like his character. He's not crazy or kooky. He's fairly level-headed, but there's like a worry to him and a little bit of an anxiety, which is understandable since his father got captured. And I like how the other earthbenders, who are also captured and on these ships, are there's nothing we can do to change it, and it's just the perfect force for Katara to butt heads with, because she is just so naive of the world, which is understandable. This is their first time venturing outside of the Southern Water Tribe, and on the ship is where the meat of the story really is. Just to like bounce back to the beginning a little bit, I think Aang and Sokka are really funny. The sequence where there's into thinking Katara as an earthbender is really, really cute, especially when like Aang lifts the rock and then Momo's there. And they think Momo's an earthbender, and it's so cute, and I love it so much. I always find it odd that Aang and Sokka are as chill as they are with her being captured. They're like, okay, you can just be imprisoned for a day, it's fine. And this is the beginning of Bryke. Bryke is the combination of the two showrunners' names, Brian and Mike, and Bryke's obsession with breaking out of prisons. This is prison break number 1. I need to keep a tally, because it happens a lot. So Katara gets put on this ship, and she is just so frustrated because everybody's just so downtrodden and depressed and has just given up of even the possibility of getting out, even though they're all earthbenders. And she just finds it to be so confusing. And I just happened to watch this episode after I finished reading the graphic novel Mouse, which is a really creative biography of the Holocaust and going through a concentration camp. I was definitely seeing a lot of parallels there, where it's like, man, how can you have hope or think about rebelling when you're just trying to survive and you're just trying to go another day, even though you're starving and tired and your just will to live is shattered. Of course, Katara doesn't see that. She just sees it's so obvious that you can get out. And so she gives this it's actually a really good motivational speech. And she's just so proud and very compelling and clearly compassionate and just has so much heart. And everybody, they just kind of watch her and then they just go back and brush off her words, because that's all it is to them, is words. Again, like basically her arc throughout the series, where she just has such a naive understanding of the world, and that she can just go head on into a problem and take it on fairly quickly, and she just gets disappointed, not because she's not trying, but because of other people and just human nature. And that just kind of runs against what she's trying to do and the way that she thinks the world should run. And shout out to the main general in this episode, who is the voice actor for the head ancestor in Mulan. When nightfall comes, Aang and Sokka and Appa come up and they're like, okay, it's time to go. And she's like, I'm not leaving. We're breaking them out. And so Aang and Sokka are like, I guess we're involved now. And I love the sequence where Sokka explains the plan to Katara. It is so clever, and the way the camera moves because the plan is, my roommate's home. So Aang basically has to go down into the ship where all the coal is. And because obviously the ships are run off of coal, and coal is what? Earth. And they have to close all the vents except for one, and then use his earthbending to move all the rocks up onto the top of the ship. And the sequence is just really clever. The camera movement is really smooth. And so Aang does it. And Katara's like, now's your chance. We can actually escape. Look, you even have the tools you need. And of course, she's kind of beaten down again. But then Haru, since he's on there, he's kind of the first to take up the opportunity. And then people like his father, who especially has given up, follow suit. And then it's all these earthbenders with their coal against the firebenders, and it was a pretty clever sequence. I liked a lot of the earthbending. There is this really fun play where Aang makes a wind tunnel for people to drop coal in on one side and then shoot it out the other. I don't know how well that would actually work, but it was really fun to watch. They defeat the soldiers, and so it's one of those where Katara eventually prevails, and I think this was a good win for her self-esteem. But it's just a little hint that human nature is a fickle thing, and it's tricky, and it can be malevolent, and you need to watch out, because not only can people be cruel, they can just be defeated and sad and not be what you need them to be in a time of desperation. I think it's a really good character building episode just to watch her get to that point. But obviously they get rid of all the Fire Nation soldiers and everybody can go back home, and it's a big hooray for everyone. And her and Haru have like a cute little blushing. But one of my favorite parts, one of my favorite things is at the end when Zuko gets on the ship. I'm assuming he's like passing by, and he picks up her necklace. Oh my gosh. Overall, it's a very fun, great Katara-driven episode. And I think because it's the beginning of the series, she fails at first, but she eventually prevails. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when she doesn't prevail, when she doesn't succeed, when her naivety really gets them into trouble. And I think we see little hints of that in this episode. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good ride. If you like this video and you want to see more like them, then please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. I post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Bye.